Shalom, Shabbat Shalom, Assalamu alaikum, Islam, greetings. However you rock out. As long as you keeping the creator first, as long as you understand the Most High, everything else is irrelevant, man. You know, people sometimes these names, Arabic, these titles, English, you know, uh, uh, just different types, man. Just different types of greetings. Okay. Hebrews, we know what we do. Muslims know what they do. African Americans know what they do. You know, my videos are to bring awareness. You know, I definitely don't think I know everything because I don't. Right now, I'm learning as I uncover certain things. So I'm learning as I go. So, but let me finish. I started doing this video yesterday. This recording yesterday of pick that is blowing my mind because I didn't have any idea that this was going on. Well, let me go to the top. Start over again. Wait a minute. But this is what we're dealing with now. It's an article. I mean, it's a PDF called Mission, right? And it's the real Indian is the Negro, aka the Blackamoor. The oldest body in America is Lucy. So I'm quite sure y'all should by now should know who Lucy is, right? So I did all this a couple of days, yesterday. I read this yesterday. So wait a minute. Let me cue up where I was. Okay, this is where I want to start at. All right. Fort Negro, 1816. This is called The Mission. It's a PDF called The Mission. Fort Negro, 1816. In the evening of a deputation of chiefs went into the fort and demanded its surrender, but they were abused and treated with the utmost contempt. The black chief heaped much abuse on Americans and said he had been led of the fort by the government and that he would sink any American vessels that should attempt to pass it and would blow the fort if he could not defend it. The chief also informed me that the Negroes had a red flag and the English Jack was flying over it. All right. The question then is, were these people former slaves? What was their purpose for flying the two flags they were flying? Slaves do not have flags. A flag representation. What nation did they represent? They were cannons in use at Fort Negro. There were cannons in use at Fort Negro. Okay. It is a well-known fact in history that the cannon was the force in North Africa and Spain. The Moors had not made the fire stick as mentioned above, but even cannon forged from front iron. Fraught iron. Okay, I need to look up what fraught iron is. But for those that don't know, there was like an ally situation that's pretty much going on or that went down. And um, I read this in the first video when I first started. So look at the video I did before this one, and you'll get the beginning of it. So, okay, where are we? All right. The two flags represented Great Britain and the indigenous Moorish Empire. They represented a nation of indigenous Moors. This is the same Islamic empire in the east that Abu Bakr, brother of Mansa Musa, was under when he brought 400 ships to America in 1311 AD. So Mansa Musa brought 400 ships to America. I wonder why. Hold up. Shit. This thing is delicate. Okay. It is this fact that the chief was flying at the back fort in Florida in 1816. Was there a continuous Moorish 1811 with arrival of Moors from the east that is dominated Africa and America until 1816? The documented dates for the presence of contemporary Moors go as far back as 700 AD, as we have shown with the inscriptions found from an ancient Nevada school bearing the name of Muhammad as the prophet of Allah. And like I said, don't get it twisted. Allah is not a name. But Allah pretty much means the Most High. It's not a name. It's just a title. It's not. Allah means the Creator, the Most High. For all of you that don't understand this, it's not a name. Allah is not a name. All right. It means the most. It means the Most High. That's what Allah means. In the book entitled "The Holy Quran," Circle 7, purpose by Noble Ali, asked the question. So I guess this Moorish thing, you know what? Let's read this. Let's see what's going on. What kind of flag is Moorish? It is a red flag with a 5-pointed green star in the center. All right. The Moorish flag, excuse me, as presented by Noble Drew Ali, there is an unveiled story that George Washington took down the original Moorish Islamic flag in America and locked it in the safe at Independence Hall in Philadelphia. It was allegedly a part of his effort to destroy any knowledge of Islam amongst black people in the budding American nation. Allegedly, it was not retrieved until Noble Drew Ali flag by hijackers in the 1920s. The Moorish flag was actually dismantled in 1816 from Fort Negro by Colonel Duncan Clinch, and General Andrew Jackson. All right. So the star was added by the colonizing French authority of the Moorish Seraphim flag in Morocco on the 17th, 1915, after France's colonial occupation began. Before this period, it was a completely red flag. It represented the Muslims, Moors of the Maghreb, West Africa, and the Americas. Hmm. Who were traveling back and forth from Africa to America, who were established as indigenous to both lands. Hmm. Who were established as indigenous to both lands. Hmm. Didn't know that. Many of the Maroons who were amongst the natives we call Seminoles were Muslims, Moors who had an ancient presence in America. The chief of this fort, called Fort Negro, was a man of Mandi descent. The Mandi are West African Muslims. Mandi groups founded the medieval empires of Ghana and Mali. They include Bambara, the Diula, the Malinke, Mandi, Dogon, and Sink. The chief at Fort Negro during the invasion of Colonel Clinch was named Abraham. His birth name was Sanofi Tuscanuji, which meant Shawnee warrior, and has been associated with the Shawnee River in Florida. The Moorish Mandi Arabic word Sanofi means powerful spirit, and Tuscanuji means warrior. This chief, who had a Moorish heritage, like most of the Maroons in Florida, was not a slave. His descendancy went back to indigenous peoples. Abraham served as interpreter for the Seminoles and as legal counsel for, this is heavy, this is heavy, this is heavy, for Miko, Miko, John Jumper, and Holata Miko, Chief Billy Bowlegs. Miko was the Seminoles chief. His brother, Halota Miko, was also a chief. Abraham served as a representative on their trip to Washington, D.C., a treaty with the United States in 18. Wait a minute. I'm about to mess that money up. There we go. All right. So this looks a little bit bigger. Okay. Hmm. Yeah. Rest in peace. Rest in peace. Yeah. Okay. Sanafi Tuskanuji, excuse me. Oh, man, water, electrolyte. Sanafi Tuskanuji, also known as Abraham, was a Maroon or a Mu or Mo, Mo or Maroon, Mo amongst the Seminoles. He was their chief legal counsel and interpreter. It was he who was at Fort Negro in 1816, flying the Moorish flag of the Islamic empires. This is the famous cherry tree that was chopped down and moved west to Oklahoma, and Chief Helota Miko and Chief Hema Miko appeared in the Everglades. This was the start of the Penn's Secret Society and other secret societies amongst the Creek and Cherokee. Saraji. These are the societies that later developed the ancient Egyptian Arabic orders of the nobles of the mystic shrine and the Moorish science temple. Okay, okay. Is the connection to the Americas in modern time and history and the efforts of our greatest teachers to reacquaint us with this marvelous and multiple history. As witnessed through his activity, Noble Drew Ali had been very aware of these histories and began to implement repair on people by repairing the root of our people the knowledge of self as he knew it at the time. This great work continued in the name of Islam. Yeah, they really going there. Excuse me. In an interview placed in the Muhammad Speaks newspaper on March the 23rd in 1973, Brother Fletcher Majid, a member of the Nation of Islam during the 1930s, serves as a witness that these ancient stories were taught openly in the early 20th century by the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. He speaks of this same red flag from the lecture he heard from the Honorable Elijah Muhammad in the early 1930s, which will serve as further proof that the Honorable Elijah Muhammad was well aware of the secret relationship that Islam has with the establishment of the American government and the prehistory of the American government. Brother Fletcher Majid said he came to the Odd Fellows Hall at 33rd and State for the first time in the fall of 1933. The messenger told us about this white man, John Hawkins, and how he brought our forefathers here. He said that John Hawkins anchored his ship down on the Nile River. He was flying our flag. He was sailing the banks of the Nile River where our people were, going to trade. Our flag was flying. Our flag was red. Freedom, justice, and equality. When he got out to sea, they lowered their flag. The Moors dominated trade in their period. Trade was dominated by the Moors from the west and north coast of Africa to the Gulf of Mexico before the Inquisition of the Spanish and slow deterioration of the Moorish and Islamic influence. Even in the 1700s, the Rayo was the unit of currency used in Mexico. which is the present standard currency of Saudi Arabia. This trade became fully interrupted when the United States developed an independent Marine Corps and Navy in the 1800s. They fought wars against the Moors, Barbary Wars, and eventually won out in these confrontations. They later fought wars against our people in Mexico, a Mexim. The rhyme of the Marines declared that they had fought from the halls of Montezuma to the shores of Tripoli, referring to exploits by the United States Marine Corps in the Mexican War and in campaign against the Barbary pirates of North Africa. And against the Barbary pirates of North Africa. Oh, so now so you must have had two different sets of Moors. You had the Barbary Moors, and then you had the other Moors that rocked out with the Indigenous. Those Barbary pirates and some of the so-called Mexicans were the Moors. The black maroon Moors from Florida who had set up communities in Mexico in the mid-1800s. The cannon was also found amongst the so-called Mexicans, which was a signature weapon in the Maroons of Florida at places like Peliclacaha, a city built by Maroons, was in Florida, and Fort Negro, where the Black Moorish Chief Sanafi Tus Abraham was captured. Colonel Duncan. Oh, I see. I see now. I see now. I see now. Okay. Sometimes you got to take all of the old stuff out of your head so you can, you got to pour your cup out so you can put some more in there. Sometimes things can be a little confusing when you try to tie in old things that you've gathered in the past. So, yeah. Let me see. With about 2,000 men, General William J. Worth captured the road between Monterey and Tilo, and by noon was storming Federation Hill. 6 companies of Texas Rangers jumped up the hill, seized enemy artillery, and turned the cannon on retreating Mexican forces. When I see thinking Canaan, Canaan, Cannon, they done flipped that word so many times. Where we at? The indigenous blacks in Mexico went under many names like Mestizo, Colos, Negros, Indian. The term Marines comes from Murray or Mur, which in Latin implies a navigator of, of the waters and also means black. So the Marines took the name of the people they were conquering the Moors, the Moors, a signature move of the grafted peoples. The history of the interaction of the Moors with the white English is extensive. Our purpose in bringing this information to surface here is the subject of reparations and generally the highlighting of international law that are of extreme importance. Ancestors had made many international treaties with the English for the protection of their citizenry and trade regulations. The Moors of the eastern part of the Islamic Empire, whose capital was seated in the western portion of Africa, the Maghreb, had made two treaties with Queen Elizabeth I as early as 1578. Islam had a major impact on Great Britain from 1558 until 1685. This is documented by researchers Nabel Matar in the book Islam in Britain. This explains why John Hawkins would have been traded amongst our people, flying, would have been trading amongst our people, flying the flag of the Moors Muslims, the red flag of the ancient Moorish nation, the Nation of Islam. These original black people of our ancestors. Okay. All right. So we all heard that. All right. I don't know. I'm just saying. I'm just reading. You hear me? Y'all know how I feel about different articles and stuff. So there were international agreements between these nations. This flag indeed represented an independent nation and a lineage that spans back to the 18th dynasty of Egypt, called often Bana Israel, the offspring of Israel, the family of Amram, the Quran Surah 3, Enram, and beyond. The Moors were international in their commerce, and many of the members of this nation had settled in America. As we have noted, Abu Bakr, the elder brother of Mansa Musa, took 400 ships to America in the early 1300s. Atlantic Ocean was not a barrier for our people. We were and are indigenous to both land masses. Excuse me. It was the black indigenous population. Wait a minute. This thing moved. All right. It was the black indigenous population of Moors in the West that suffered a death blow from colonizing Europeans. Throughout the 16th and 17th century, while Spanish, Dutch, French, British, and Portuguese Christians were conquering indigenous populations across the Pacific and Atlantic Oceans. Islamic military had pushed the Ottomans and their North African satellites. The regencies of Tunisia, Tripoli, Libya, and Algeria, along with the Empire of Morocco beyond the Mediterranean, and as far as the walls of Vienna and into the English channels. This is detailed history that has not been known by most. It is at the root of the rise of the Europeans in the Western Hemisphere. Let's look at this. Hmm. 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 Make sure everything labeled what I'm used to seeing, but we already know this whole map thing. Oh, that North America. Oh, South America. Yeah, okay. And then all of this too. What is this? We know what this is. It's Asia, China. No, no, they got it. They done bamboozled us and hoodwinked us so hard in this map game. Like, mm. All right, man. So let me finish. Islam was on the rise in the East in Europe, and as the colonizers left freedom of religion, the freedom that they wanted was freedom from the oppression of humanity. They found this in the West through the interaction with the ancient Moorish Empire in America. With the ancient Moorish Empire in America. Their expansion into the West, Europeans, has buried the knowledge of the ancient indigenous Moorish Empire in America. Hmm. You don't say. This map shows oceanography and general oceanic currents of the Atlantic. Our ancestors, the indigenous black peoples of the Americas and the East, these currents use them in trade and travel across the Atlantic from America, Africa, and Europe. So that's what they're saying. Worldwide winds and currents, emphasizing Atlantic drift routes from Africa to America. Now, we got differences, this whole transatlantic slave trade, this whole triangle. Um, us free thinkers, we have an understanding of something being different from what was being told. So we're not really sure. I'm just saying. Of course, history proves that some of our people were brought over as slaves. I didn't know he was going to say that. However, most of them were not. We have also noticed people that most of the prisoners of war, slaves, were taken from geographical areas of the Moorish Empire, and the action of enslaving Moors and Muslims by the Americans and British was and is a violation of international law and treaties. Sylvian Diouf, in his book Servants of Allah, points out that nearly 60% of the captured peoples during what we call slavery. Most of us have not taken in this knowledge and perspective on the history of slavery. This is in part due to social engineering. That's why. Because we have to learn how to look ourselves. Defeatist curriculums, okay, I said that have been given to us by the whites and even by some black scholars. There is much proof of us telling of a black people from Egypt and other empires in America prior to European. These so-called Egyptians, like Moses, Pharaoh, Akhenaten, excuse me, are considered to be Muslims by nature, and according to the Book of Divine Contract of the Moorish nation, Quran, and the treaties of Maracah, 1786 and 1836, specify the Quran as the law of the judication between Moors, Muslims, and white Americans. See Treaty of Maracah Appendix. There were also Moors from the era of Muhammad, 7th century, and beyond America prior to colonization. A treaty in 1539 by the fifth King of Spain forbade the grandsons of Muslims burnt at the stake to migrate to the West Indies. This decree was ratified in 1543 and in order for the expulsion of all Muslims from Spanish territories, Mexico, North and South America was subsequently published. Why? Why would the Christian King of Spain and the Pope in Rome want all the Muslims expelled from all Spanish colonies overseas? Hernan Cortez, a Spanish criminal who invaded Mexico in 1519, who had an unborn genius for treachery and was unbelievably cruel, brutal, boasted to this same king, Charles V of Spain, that he had massacred unarmed women and children, and prior to impose his will upon the natives. These natives were the indigenous blacks who had settled this area, and the same attack of the Europeans in the later wars in North America in the 1800s with the indigenous black population were used and orchestrated here. These white Christian crusaders were kidnappers, kidnapping small children and breeding them. Thousands of red people were used to make war against the original indigenous black peoples of the land. This tactic with separation was used in the early developments of government in America and resulted in many of the red peoples being chosen as the new native leaders over tribes and given land and reservations in the back door. Treaty deals in the back door. My last video, all I kept talking about was all these online coming through the back door beefing, you know, because how we beef is totally different. You got a problem with somebody, man, you see them about it, you know. But all of these, they got these goofy gangs. That's what I'm gonna call them. I'm gonna call them the YouTube goofy gangs. Cause understand this, I got a whole nother situation. I don't, you know, y'all gang whoever, y'all feel how y'all feel. You know what I mean? Do what y'all do. Understand this. You dealing with something else, man. Okay, so go ahead with the bullshit, man. And plus, the Most High got me. I understand who I am and what's going on. All right, so go ahead with the goofy shit, man. Thousands of rebellious red native supporters supported Cortez. Yeah, we're gonna try this whole thing. Jules Chauvet, a French author of Les Barbares and Amérique, the Berbers of America, published 1930 cities that the ethnic names of 46 of 47 examine names of inland and coastal African Berber communities match American tribes. Did you know that? Did you know that? Why are there such close associations between so-called African native tribes and ancient American native tribes in language and in culture, as well as physical appearance and genotype? Author of They Came Before Columbus, Dr. Ivan Van Sertima, states in references to Corvet's findings, these many identities and names are not simply the result of one migration of Arabs or Africans to America, nor in fact to one-way traffic of people and culture to the American continent. 1 second. Take 5. 1 second. 1 second. All right. Now, okay. Where are we? Okay. All right. It is evident that the whites who colonized America had a plan that they codified into the laws of the Constitution. Under the fugitive, under the fugitive from the justice clauses and the migration and the importation clauses of the Constitution, and the migration and the importation clauses of the Constitution, to allow the international crime of enslaving a people who they had international agreements not to enslave, in violation of international treaty, enforcing involuntary servitude and attempts of genocide on a people and nation who inhabited America and Africa prior to the unlawful invasion of white Europeans. Our people had a nationality and land, and that is recorded on official record and its historical documents on both continents. Franklin enslaves all United States citizens to debt. Benjamin Franklin entered into treaty into 1782 with King George III and his exchequer banks with the United States, and the 13 chartered corporate states would be held responsible for the first payment being due November the 17th, 1787. Fair use, educational purposes only. It's fair use, educational purposes. This was the sole purpose for the creating of the Constitution and the new government, and set in operation a function in the government where the Congress can borrow money on behalf of the United States federal government. Article 1, Section 8, Clause 2, and its subject corporation states and subject citizens then set up and incorporate a bank to give those foreign creditors interest in the labor of the people, where we are at now in bondage. Article 1 of the treaty of that treaty states. Wait a minute. Treaty states. It is agreed and certain the sums advanced by His Majesty to the Congress of the United States under the title of a loan in the years 1778, 79, 80, 81, and the present 1782 amount to the sum of 18 million of livres money of France. Hmm. Okay, to the family, I'm sorry, to the following of the above mentioned under Minister of Congress, given in virtue of his full powers, to wit, amounting in the whole to 18 millions, by which receipt the said minister has promised in the name of Congress and in behalf of the 13 United States to cause to be paid and reimbursed to the Royal Treasury His Majesty on the 1st 1788 at the house of his grand banker at Paris. The said sum of 18 millions money of France, with interest at 5% per annum. Article 6 of the made in 1782 is a picture of why the government changed when it changed from the anti-federalist Sons of Liberty under the Articles of Confederation to the Federalists under the Constitution. Hmm. 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 Just reading, uh, taking it in. It's just a lot of slick jargon when when stuff like this, it's jargon. So instead of just getting to the point, it's all this slick talk. Sometimes you gotta read it like 3 times or 4 times. Constitution, a debt document for United States citizens, not for Aboriginal nation. No, I'm sorry, national of the Republic. Constitution, a debt document for United States citizens, not, huh? Crazy. Article 6 Supremacy Clause contracted by engagements entering into before the adoption of this Constitution shall be as valid against the United States under the Constitution as under the Federation. This Constitution and the laws of the United States, which shall be made in pursuance thereof, and all treaties made under the authority of the United States shall be the supreme law of the land, and the judges in every state shall be bound thereby. Anything in the Constitution or laws of any state to be arbitrary notwithstanding. Senators and representatives before mentioned and the members of the several state legislatures and all executive and judicial officers, both of the United States and of the several states, shall be bound by oath or affirmation to support this Constitution, but no religious test shall ever be required as a qualification to any office or public trust under the United States. More jargon. George Washington chops down the cherry tree. First United States Bank, 1791, debt system. Look, what's really going on? What is it? It says Washington worships Allah and confirms the empire in the East while working to destroy it in the West. It's crazy, boy. It's like, these guys, man. Excuse me. The whole time they call themselves building, they're tearing down to build. So I don't even want to read no more of this. I don't even want to see no more of this stuff. What is this? The United States paid $20,000 for the Treaty of Marrakesh. The seal of the emperor was placed. The treaty, originally written in Arabic. They wrote the treaty in Arabic. Oh yeah. I'm gonna leave this link in the description box. You guys can go on ahead and read it. Whatever I'm passing over, if you're interested, you can read it. I guess this is the treaty. Yeah, this is the treaty. The Treaty of Marrakesh of 1786, made between Caliph Muhammad ibn Abdul, Islamic leader of the Moorish Empire, Maghreb, and America. The Moors of the West, who were misnamed Indians and Negroes, were also receiving tributary payment. George and King George III and his colonies. Oh yeah, I bet. Shit. Sometimes you got, man, probably a bad situation. You never know the mentality, of how people thought back then. A lot of times people just needed a sandwich, and they rocked out to a certain degree, So I'm not saying it was right or wrong, because nobody wants to starve, man. Nobody wants to starve. And when whites, did not pay their citizens, were held captive. In the book about Charles Thomas, The History of Black, Lenape Nanticoke, Moorish, Shacom, Ted Ted Dushung is discussed the tributary payment of the whites, and Ted Du- Ted Dush, Ted Yu Ted Yu Shung's choosing of Charles Thomas to act as secretary in respect to interaction between the Moors, misnamed Indians, and Negroes, and the white British subjects. Here are the records from the book of the life of Charles Thomas. Hey, that's what I'm saying, man. You know, we y'all here doing all this beefing when the whole time it's probably just separation. It's causing separation. So we can't band together and do what we gotta do. I could be wrong. I'm just saying. Think about it. All right. Is this Charles Thomas, Lowe, Masters, Strickland, and Gibbons? The Indians came of 300 representing tribes, and Tudushnikong, a chief of the Delawares, was appointed to speak for them in the conference. The friendly association, organized by a number of prominent Quakers in 1756, had a great influence upon the negotiations of this treaty. The purposes of this body are set forth by Goff in his History of the People called Quakers as follows. Let me just read. Which was chiefly laid out in presents to the Indians, right, and delivered to them at the public treaties, either of province, Morris and Denny, half of the subscribers, or by the went out. Hold on, it's probably going there. And look at this. Wally Chiefs. So, okay. Just trying to get an understanding, man. Just trying to get an understanding. Take your time, man. Digging in real time. I want to know what's going on with everything, especially my people. Okay. I think we kind of read something like that already. Let's go this way. Yeah, we about to dismount. And this is very intriguing. So this says Moor by nature and nationality. Oldest hieroglyphic of the name Moors, Temple of Luxor. Tomari. Texor Tomari. So-called Egypt Kemet. Source: Dr. Muata Ashby. The Meta, the no, I'm sorry, the Netta Mary, in the Kemetan teachings of devotional love. God is termed Mary, beloved one. Mary. God is called Mary. Okay, called Mary. All life came from the black waters of Niu, called space, on soup of Netaru or Netraru, which is where Negro is deprived. Is derived. Is derived, derived etymologically. Okay, Neter, is the neteru, the neutron soup. All life came from the black waters of Nu, called space or the neutron soup, or the neteru, or netru, which is where Negro is derived from etymologically. So this is neteru. Neteru. Our history is so deep with this African, Asian, Caribbean, American. We just got so much, man. All right, so here we go. What's this? The word that we commonly use is also comes from negus or negust. Negus is the hieroglyphic for the black people of Africa. We were the first ones to call ourselves by these names, and we understood their cosmic biochemical meanings. Here is the glyph. Here is the glyph. Say, here is the glyph. Land of Negro. So I'm just saying, man, Palmero. I'm just saying, man. We learning, right? The Muhammad teaches that all the indigenous people are Muslim by nature, not by religion. Prophet Noble Drew Ali was the first to teach this to our people after we had experienced slavery. The word Muslim is derived from the Arabic, Hebraic, Ma or Ma'u, which stems from the Egyptian Sumerian Mu, which meant waters. The root stem, slime or slim, implied peace, peace, peace. So, Musalam. So, Musalam means a being who is derived from Alma and is a being of peace. The waters that we are derived from are fold spiritually and scientifically. You heard me. I say you heard me. The first is dealing with the placenta, and our origin from waters of the womb of our mothers, the woman. The second aspect deals with a verse of, wait a minute, get this down again. It's a verse of, man, it's like I'm about to be reading this whole jiffy. A verse of spiritual science from the Quran in Surah 21 Al-Banya, the Prophet's verse 30. It is most often translated as, do not those who disbelieve see that we created from water, Alma, every living thing, Surah 2, Al-Baqarah, the splitting verses 21 and 22. O nations, serve your nourisher and sustainer, the one who created you and those from before you, that you may guard against evil. That you may guard against evil. So, man, let me back up real quick. Look at this. It's getting deep. It's getting deep. All right. So I wanted to let me see something else real quick. Trying to figure out how come. Alright. So it's that screen. I haven't figured out how to put multiple screens up yet, but I will. So let's read this 6:12, right? Ephesians 12, and this is the Bible Gateway. For our struggle is not against flesh and blood, it's against the rulers, against the authorities, against the powers of this dark world, and against the spiritual forces of, of evil and the heavenly realm. So I was reading that verse earlier. That's Ephesians chapter 6, verse 12. To piggyback off of that little bit. Alright, so where was I? One second. Trying to find if I just came from. Wait a minute. Is this it? Okay, got it. 22. Who made the earth a resting place and constructed the heavens and reveals revelations from the heavens, right? Then forth from his fruits and you. So do not set up rivals to Allah while you know. Do not set up rivals to the Most High. Do not do not set up rivals to them. Like I said, Allah is not a name, man. Go ahead. If you're not sure what you're saying or what you're thinking about certain things, keep your mouth shut. All right. So, the Messianic mental Baptists of the Blackamoor into universal Cyrus mysteries. Okay, so this is what we're going to do. I'm going to dismount, but we're going to pick up right here on part 4. Part 4 of this PDF that I'm very intrigued by. Um, it's called, one second, give it to you right. It's called The Red Indian, aka the Black Moor. So right now there are two parts because it's a lot of reading, and I'm reading through this. Like, yeah, I'll probably retitle them and everything. But for right now, this was kind of like I'm winging it. So work with me. So Red Eagle, I'm signing out. Peace. Well, let me go back here so y'all know we come back. All right, this is where we're going to start at tomorrow. All right. So peace.